And we should be live. I'm just going to wait for YouTube to catch up with us from the slight delay. And okay, we are live. Hello, friends, loved ones, and people who hate everybody else. We are here today with a Chaos interview with Zer0. You might know him from Turin's channel, very good Chaos player. You also might know him from War of the Worlds, the 1958 radio presentation. He was alien number 3. How you doing, Zer0?
Hey there. Pretty good. Pretty good.
And if chat has any issues hearing Zer0, let me know, and I will do my best to adjust that. But for anybody who doesn't know the format of what's going on here, we've done one other interview before with a Lizardman player, Bob Tresh, and it was, we gathered a bunch of questions that players from my community had on Discord. We found, well, it's weird to say professional when you're talking about video games, but one of the best Chaos players out there, here we have Zer0, and he's going to answer the questions for you, so maybe you can play Chaos about 80% as well as him. And I will switch over the screen so y'all don't have to look at that screen blocker anymore. Zer0, anything you want to say, or should we hop right into it?
I'm good. Let's go.
All right, this first question is from Neckbet. How micro-intensive is Chaos?
Well, I don't think Total War in general is very micro-intensive compared to some of the other RTSs, but Chaos is probably one of the lower, the easier to control as far as micro goes. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, I suppose, is it easy to get a 20 stack with them, or do you usually have under that for units?
You can bring like 8 Marauders and get a 20 stack. It's not too bad. You can bring Sigvald. Sigvald's pretty cheap. It's usually a bit less though. It's usually around 15.
There are a
12,
decent amount of
15.
questions about the good Sigvald.
Excellent.
Speaking of Sigvald, I had a question, but Bob Tresh modified it. When do you not pick Sigvald? He just seems like the best lord.
You can use him a lot of places. He tends to get sniped in some matchups, like the Lizardman can snipe him with a Troglodyte now. He used to be pretty good there. And he kind of takes a little bit to crew value, so if you have like a more mobile army, a lot of horse masters, and you're trying to kite a little bit, then the other choices could be a bit better. And yeah, it's a lot of personal preference with that as well. So.
And he's largely acknowledged to be overtuned. How would you, as a Chaos player, want to fix him without making him completely worthless?
I would think he would be cool if he had like some of like Marathi's debuffs instead of the Perfect Vigor, because he'd be easier to kill then, but he would have some support abilities that Chaos doesn't really have right now.
Huh. Would you do the 20 melee attack and 10 melee defense nerf, or would you pull that one back a bit?
Probably not. I think he should be a pretty good duelist.
All right. What is the most exciting way to play Chaos? This is from FNG.
I like a balanced army, actually. 'Cause, I don't know. I just like the way Chaos plays, sort of, with their style and their lord choices. But you can do other things, like bring 4 chariots or something funny like that. That could be quite interesting.
For those out there who aren't familiar with Chaos, when you say a standard, like what is a standard?
Standard is probably like 3 single entities, maybe 2 of them being monsters, and then a line of heavy infantry, and then quite a bit of skirmish cav is probably the most standard way to play Chaos.
Now, the single entities, that's actually the first time I've heard that. And when I play against Chaos as Skaven, now it might be different with Skaven. You get the 2 Feral Manticores, but then usually it's just a Forsaken and Chaos spawn kind of rush. When you say 3 single entities, do you mean a Shaggoth?
Yeah, it depends on the matchup. Like versus Tomb Kings, you can bring 2 Manticores and a Shaggoth. That's not too bad. Or 2 Shaggoths and a Manticore or something like that.
This isn't one of the questions, but now I'm just curious. Do you ever bring the Giant?
I don't really. No.
Oh, poor giant.
Sometimes I meme with it versus vampire counts or something, but
Anything
I don't
without
really.
anything without missiles, I guess.
Yeah, because chaos, you don't really have a lot of fast movers to shut down archer play so much. So you're usually trying to tank out missiles more. So that really doesn't work very well with the chaos roster, in my opinion.
Speaking of the Chaos roster from Malverde, what are the most overrated and underrated units on the roster?
Um, hmm. Oh, that's a tricky one. Most of the roster is actually pretty well balanced, and actually quite strong if it was on other rosters. Chaos is missing like a faction buff, like a Wa or a Merch Proas or Ushabti Summon. So, um, hmm. Let's see here. I think Sigvald is quite overrated, actually.
Ooh,
Uh,
spicy take there.
Also, and possibly Shielded Chaos Warriors for underrated, maybe.
Why is that just very? I mean, I guess they're very cost effective. They cost less than Orc Biggins.
Yeah, they actually beat Biggins quite handily. Um, they beat most things. They beat pretty much everything in their price range, and pretty much any other faction would pretty much love to have Shielded Chaos Warriors on their roster. But it's just, I guess, the way things work out, they tend to be a little overlooked on the Chaos roster.
Huh. Yeah, now that I think of it, they are pretty cheap. Are they worth? Now you could take two Chaos Marauders instead of them. Which would you rather have? It depends on the matchup, but just in
Yeah, it would
general.
depend what you're doing. The Marauders are quite good. They're actually probably it's probably pretty much a wash compared to their missile resistance between the both of them. But
Uh,
sometimes you just need like density of power or something like that, because if your stuff just routes right away, then you lose a flank and get overrun, and that's not
yeah.
good.
I also imagine if you're going to win the frontline fight, you'd want.
Yeah, if you want your infantry to be a win condition, you need better infantry, which should come into play in one of the later questions from what I looked at.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Chaos Warriors, a question from me: when would you take Chosen over Chaos Warriors? With Burning Head and like Pendulum in the meta, it feels like Chosen are a big old liability.
Neither of those are actually super great against Chosen. Chosen have a low model count, actually. They only have 60 models, so they do resist a lot of those AoEs a lot better. But there are, like, armor-piercing missiles, which if they can flank or something like that, it's a lot more dangerous. But I would
Huh.
say nowadays the main core should probably be Chaos Warriors' great weapons most of the time. But Chosen can be good. They are actually quite good. So you can use them. You can use them in like places like the Tomb Kings, I guess. Like a Chosen would be good, but
Yeah, I saw in the most recent faction face-off I had, it was Chaos versus Tomb Kings, and Rocket Row took a bunch of Chaos Warriors with halberds and one Chosen with halberds, and I was kind of curious about that.
yeah. So the Chosen with halberds actually do have more mass than the regular Chosen. They have like 210 mass, so they're actually very difficult to push through, and they're statted almost as well as the Elven halberds. So they're not too bad. I think the Elven halberds are still a little better if they have healing or
You mean the
immunity
Phoenix Guard or
psychology.
just any of the elves?
Well, the Wood Elves don't have any, so it's just Phoenix Guard and Blackguard, and both of those are pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Blackguard
But
exist. I kind of forget about them from time to time.
they only use versus the Dark Elf or the Vampire counts, I guess. But no, Blackguard are pretty good too. They got immune to psychology and whatnot. So chosen all are quite good. I actually run some great weapons chosens versus the high elves a lot of times, but
Yeah, I imagine they would be pretty good. White Lions do really well against high elf infantry, so I can imagine Chosen are just better. 120 armor is nothing to scoff at. Basic archers won't take them out on the advance. Their leadership's really high. They're a good unit, just a little pricey, so you
They're
probably want a
pricey.
small map.
So yeah, and have had them lose to like odd Sisters of Avalorn builds where they just get nuked. But
Oh yeah, that would be a very bad time indeed.
um, yeah, most of the time I think you want a if you need something to stick around, the 10 leadership and extra melee defense of the chosen, or yeah, the chosen, really does help. So sometimes like lizard men and whatnot, you don't want them to run away. Chosen do quite well against lizard infantry.
Speaking of variants of Chosen and etc., I didn't mark who asked this question, so if you're out there, shout out in the chat. Uh, when do you take great weapons? When do you take halberds? I thought I heard from a couple people that there's no reason to take halberds in the current state of the game, but then yet I still see people do it.
Halberds are actually really good against monstrous infantry. That's like their bread and butter. They can actually crush like Croxagors and all sorts of monstrous infantry. With Cav, you can just countercharge with great weapons, and they do quite well. And they do quite well in melee versus Cav. But yeah, most of the time I would say great weapons. If you're up against something like Lizardmen or Tomb Kings with a lot of like mechanical beasts or monstrous infantry, then yeah, I would go for the halberds in those cases. And Vampire Coast as well with the crabs and whatnot. You don't really need the armor piercing since most of their armored targets are large and depth guard aren't really that great anyway.
I wish they were. As a Vampire Coast player, I wish Depth Guard were good. I kept trying to, when I was picking up Vampire Coast, this is a little tangent, but I kept taking Celostra because she has Song of Enthrallment and then Fog of the Damned, so you lower someone's melee attack by like 25. And I'm like, all right, my Depth Guard are going to kick a ton of ass in this amount of time. Then we can pull back and I can heal them with Invocation of Heck. It'll be great. And even with all that, they still just usually lose.
Yeah.
It's
the HP pool is too small and the model count. They already have decent stats. They have like 70 something melee attack on the axe depth chart.
Yeah.
So they're actually kind of like Forsaken in a way.
As Chaos, how do you handle Vampire Coast air cheese with like double gunnery rights? This question is from Rocket.
I kind of just do the same thing against most vampire count builds. Just bring a bunch of marauders and some halberds and a ton of missile cav and a firecaster with Sigbolt. Then I just try to put pressure on the gunnery whites and try to get as many 1v1 matchups with the marauders and against the zombies, because the marauders will take the zombies apart quite quickly actually.
By the way, you were not messing around with these chosen. On stream, I'm occasionally just showing things we're talking about, and they destroyed the Croxagars.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, the bonus versus large on top of chosen stats is just insane. It's like being pitted against 5 units of skin wolves or something.
Oh boy. All right, that was just surprising. But anyway, skirmish cav, firecaster, poke down the gunnery whites.
Yeah, and Sigvolt, when you lube him up, is actually pretty quick. You can probably catch him down, especially if you block with the missile cav or hounds or something. Well, probably not hounds, but
yeah, he does have slippery, and that increases his speed. And he has 40 speed for a foot character. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, he's pretty quick, and he doesn't tire, so he doesn't slow down. And does he have Strider? I'm not sure.
He does.
He does. Okay, so even in water forests or anything, you're not gonna.
Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't Sigvald have more buffs? Come on. That's pretty funny. All right. What? There's some things in my Discord, and I had to see if any of them are
any relevant stuff. Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it yet. We have Butcher Bird in the chat, so before he heads off, I'll ask his favorite question. It's a two-parter. I'm going to get rid of both questions because I'm going to ask them at the same time. I
saw there was one like that. Yeah.
Why is an armored troll rush the only real way to play Chaos, and why does it make Chaos look like such a dominant faction in the meta? And then he added later, but seriously, what do you think about armored trolls?
Yeah, armored trolls. I actually really want to like armored trolls. I think they're really cool because regenning 110 armor monstrous infantry, and they hit pretty hard, and it's like, I want to use them, but every time I use them, it's kind of like, they never seem to perform. I don't know if I haven't figured out a way because if you put chevrons on them, they cost like 11.50 or something crazy, and it's like then you want to use like two or three of them because if you just have one, he gets targeted down and routed off the map.
Yeah, their leadership's still 40. They are
Yeah,
definitely
40
trolls.
leadership. That's not very good for what they cost. They're almost 1,000 gold for 40 leadership.
How do they compare to
And
stone trolls, though?
they're not as good. The missile resist, I don't know what it is, but they just don't perform like some stone trolls. You wouldn't think like 10, or what is it, 10, 20 weapon strength for stone trolls. I don't even know if the stats are any better on the stone trolls,
Stone
but
trolls have 2 more melee attack, 20 more weapon damage, 10 more charge bonus, and they have missile resist and magic resist. While the chaos armor trolls have no missile resist or magic resist, but they have 40 more armor.
yeah, you wouldn't think that would be that big of a difference, but it really is. I don't know if there's an animation difference or whatnot, but
Eh.
I guess it must be the missile resist and the magic resist because it's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, because, like, armor's neat, but in this game, the Dread Saurian, where are you? The Dread Saurian's biggest problem is that even basic archers in mass could take it down. It has 100 armor, so you'd think basic archers wouldn't do that much, but just, they're big. If all the missiles hit, it adds up. So I think a
Yeah,
25% reduction actually does mean a whole lot.
yeah, and a lot of the Shagas and whatnot have that missile resistance, and they still actually die pretty quick. The missiles, so
Yeah. Big models in this game. I would not be against lowering the base armor pierce on a lot of missiles that you actually need to like get dedicated armor piercing to take out some big monsters. But then again, as I've announced many times, I am a fan of big monsters slamming into each other. So of course I'm going to be like nerf missiles, way.
yeah, and most of them have actually already minimum armor piercing. Like I think Brett archers and Gabo archers only have 1 AP. So yeah,
I'm seeing in the chat armored trolls plus Archie's crown combo. Oh, the crown of domination, 4
yeah,
leadership and immune to psychology. That could work. It's a lot of
I
money though.
sort of could. It's just I don't think it's a particularly good combination.
Yeah. That's an
Uh,
expensive route to go, and you have to blob up all of your good assets in one spot to make that useful, and it means you're going to lose the
yeah,
rest of the map.
they're not actually very good against. The trolls are actually better against large, I think, than infantry, unless you have something like sword masters or something, or
Yeah.
executioners that they can beat on. Um, and against large, you can bring like the summoners of rage or dragon ogres for not really that much more, like 3 trolls versus 2 dragon ogres. Then versus large, the dragon ogres are much more useful.
Yeah, it's about 300 more gold for the 2 dragon ogres instead of the 3 trolls. About.
Um,
So
yeah,
that's not, that's not that much more for something that actually has anti-large
yeah.
and has better
Dragon
stats.
ogres are a menace in the anti-large department. I think basic ones beat the Royal Demigryph Knights. So they can definitely mess stuff up. The trolls actually, but one more thing about the dragon ogres actually do lose to sword masters 1v1. So I don't know
Really?
what it is about versus infantry, but the dragon ogres do not do well versus infantry.
That's a little alarming. Huh.
Yeah. I don't know if the trolls would probably lose to sword masters too, just because of the morale and whatnot. But
Swordmaster's OP.
yeah, so OP sword will get you every time.
When do you use
Well,
hell cannons?
hell cannons. I pretty much just use the Regiment of Renown version, the Soul of Damnation, for a wild card pick, and I usually only use it versus people that are like at least as close to me, and like if I'm not worried about losing to them, then I probably won't bring a hell cannon because that's kind of a risky-ish pick. It's not super bad, but if you lose your hell cannon, you're kind of up the creek a little bit.
Yeah. And I suppose it is pretty easy to snipe out the cannon itself and then just leave the crew. Did you ever see
Yeah,
that? Sorry, you go.
never mind. I was just gonna say that every time I use it, I seem to find out a new way to kill it. But
Did you ever see the tariff video of I think it was called like that awkward moment when you fight Chaos, and it's just the Chaos dwarves because they're unbreakable, so you get army
Yep.
losses, but you have to go kill them. We shall never surrender. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, I know.
I love that video, dude. I watched it like 8 or 9 times. I think Jay Phoenix sent that to me. Hank Cyrus in the chat is going nuts. So I did say lower the base armor piercing on missile units so that they can't take down big monsters. But my Rattling guns and Zer0 still have a ton more armor piercing to give, so I'll be okay. All right, just addressing that in the chat.
Alrighty.
So, from Not Human Boy, this is not me. In the YouTube chat, he's real human being. In my Discord, he's not human boy. Neither of them is me. Do you draw kite in quick battles?
Me? Nah, not really. I don't. I have drawn people in kind of unusual ways, but I've been playing for a long time. Nah, I don't really do it. I have a friend in real life actually used to draw kite people with steam tanks, and that was kind of funny. But
That's because it's
nah,
the best way to play.
I don't do it myself. What's that?
It's the best way to play. You never lose if you draw. Come
No,
on.
but it's just boring to run away for 10 minutes.
That's true.
There was one game where I was playing Dark Elves against Dwarves, and he was in the corner, and I kind of lost most of my army, so I went to the other corner and sat it out because I was salty, and he couldn't walk over in time. But that's pretty much the exceptions.
Turns out you were right about the Sword Masters and the Dragon Ogres.
Yeah,
They're not.
yeah. I
having
don't
a good
know.
time.
You would think like it's like almost $1,700 monstrous infantry, and their armor piercing against just an anti-infantry unit, but the sword masters, good stats, I guess. Elves OP.
Yeah, I guess. I'll throw a fireball in to help him out. Hey! That'll turn the fight. But without Archaon, Dragon Ogres would have lost. Alright. Butcherbird and Sedane both asked variants of this question. Do you use Chaos Knights in any matchup? Which variant of them is better? Do they have the Lances and Barding, or what's that second one again?
It's sword and shield, and I believe lances and bard. I think it's just lances, no barding.
The Lances have 16 less melee defense and 2 more melee attack, all for 36 charge bonus. That seems like a huge nerf. For
Yeah,
more mode.
I think the sword versions are actually better. If the lances were 1400, I'd use I'd use them more than never. But the sword version aren't too bad. I think they actually beat dragon princes and whatnot. They just take forever to kill stuff. But versus stuff without armor piercing, the lance version or the sword version are actually quite annoying to deal with if you don't have enough armor piercing. So you could use one versus the high elves or something like that, and it'd do pretty good work. You get them on the archer line, they'd have a hard time getting it off. They don't do well versus dragons, but
They look badass.
they do look very cool.
I kind of wish they dealt like fire damage since they all have these flaming swords.
They wouldn't beat dragon princes.
Well, that's
But,
true.
yeah.
But the thematics.
Yeah. Oh. They're actually one of my favorite units look wise.
Oh, they all get the fire trails that Archaon gets, but his is bigger.
Yeah.
That's like a little attention to detail that I really like. That they don't just have the same one, it's that his is bigger. That's so cool.
That is cool.
Now what they have to do is melt the snow they're running on and turn it into water so that all the infantry trying to follow them take that bonus, that penalty.
Yeah.
Hank Cyrus in the chat is asking a question that is relevant. What are your opinions on the Swords of Chaos, the ROR Chaos Knights?
Oh, they're kind of terrible.
Yeah, why's that? I don't really know what they do. This is not my faction.
They're a low model count unit. They're like 18 models, I think, but they deal like 65 damage.
Oh.
So it's like a treekin damage, sort of. I don't know. But they're tree speed. They're not tree. They're horse speed. Actually, yeah, they're 6 speed. They're not fast either. They
Huh.
do Guardian, but Guardian was also nerfed, and yeah, they're just kind of bad. They don't have enough. They're kind of like aspiring champions, sort of. If you had
Yeah.
like 8 mounted aspiring champions, Hey, I saw in your little clip here thing. The Chaos Knights didn't take a lot of damage from the Swordmaster. That's
They
good.
did not on the charge. Unlike, I know the great weapons, like if you charge them into Black Orcs or something, would do great
Yeah.
damage, but yeah, they did okay on the charge. I did
All right.
break. I broke their defensive line with Archaon first, but then they won it pretty handily. But
Yeah, but the Guardian was nerfed. They don't do a lot of damage. They have really good stats. They actually can grind stuff out, but yeah, they usually just get targeted by something like missiles or a big monster will come in and bop a few of them, or Spirit Leech or whatnot. So they're really not very good. They don't do enough damage. They do damage too slowly, is what they do. And the Guardian isn't as good as he used to be.
so we've asked a lot of serious questions. We'll throw in a little fun one from Neckbet. Should there be a Slanesh themed Horsemaster Regiment of Renown called the Whoremasters?
Uh, I'm not really a Slaneshi guy, but nah, I don't think so.
Probably
They
have to
should be a
update.
little more subtle in their reference.
Yeah, probably have to update the rating on the game, and that's not CA's jam. But the follow up to that I actually am interested in. If CA went up to you and they said, "Hey, Zero, buddy, pal, friend, we're gonna make a Horsemaster Regiment of Renown, but what we don't know what it should be. We just want one. What would be a good
I would,
Horsemaster ROR?
I would pick a melee horse, yeah, a melee horse master.
Really?
Maybe like a corn themed one, like
So,
painted red.
so then they still throw javelins, but they have like Chaos Knight type stats ish.
Yeah, just like low armor, but something like 1,000 gold.
Hmm.
Something fast, low armor, hits hard,
That could be interesting. And now,
something like that. Because actually, all the elves have melee and missile version of their light cav. The greenskins have Spider Rider melee and missile, and Wolf Rider melee and missile. So most of the other factions, even the Beastmen, have melee and missile Centaurs. But there's no melee Horsemaster, so I would like a melee Horsemaster.
now what would you name him?
Oh, the ROR?
Yeah,
I have to think about that for a minute.
the Zeros lads. The zero chance of survival.
Ah,
Shitty buns.
yeah, I'm not sure about that one, but
I will let
I
you
don't know.
consider it.
I don't know really the lore about the corns. Something like a corn warband, I guess, would probably be named after.
Now, this question's from Swarv, and it came in pretty late, and I don't know exactly how to ask it. I understand what he wanted, but it's like really hard to put into words. Um, so when you have skirmish cav, there's one. Sometimes chaos players take 4, sometimes they take 6. Is that just how much money you have left in the build, or is there certain times where you really want 6, and there's other times where 4 does the job? I'm just kind of curious why the difference? Because greenskins always take 6.
Yeah, you just kind of tend to run out of money faster with chaos, so you don't have enough left over for skirmish cav. But your skirmish cav is really very important. But there's another thing where if you have like an absolute ton of skirmish cav, it's harder to get as much value or cost effectiveness from each individual skirmish cav. So a lot of time, yeah, if there's like a big blob of skirmish cav and somebody has archers or something, then you can
Ooh.
it's easier to shoot into a big blob of them and get more damage. So you don't usually get as much value per skirmish cav if you bring a whole ball of them. It's, I guess, the only real reason. It is good though. I mean, you can run 6. It's not bad at all.
And when you're using them, how do you decide when to run them into melee combat and when to keep skirmishing? Because I keep running into the problem, specifically when I fight dwarves. I'll take skirmish cav, and I'll see thunderers are exposed. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, thunderers. And I charge them with 2 skirmish cav in melee, and then the thunderers just whoop my ass, and I run away. It's like, well, how do you know when to pull them back and when to run them in?
Yeah, I guess that's mostly experience, but yeah, you really do have to be quite careful with your skirmish cav because in a lot of matchups, if you lose your skirmish cav, you just lose the game, or even if you get like your skirmish cav like super heavily damaged early, it's even if you get a good trade for them, or you think you do, a lot of times they just are so crucial late game that because you can get abused so hard with your low speed units if you don't have skirmish cav. So I would try to prioritize on keeping them alive, and a lot of times I just turn fire at will on, because if they throw their missiles into something, then it's usually okay, and then just so they're around late game for mass.
Do you leave skirmish mode on?
Skirmish mode, if I'm not micro, what I'll do a lot of times is I'll click it on and then leave them alone, go micro somewhere else, and I'll come back and turn it off. So
is there a hotkey for that, or do you always have to just mouse down to the button?
I just mouse down, which is actually it's the most micro part, intensive part of the game. But yeah, because a lot of times I don't know what because there isn't like an overriding button. Sometimes it works if you like click on a group of them and click skirmish mode. Sometimes it turns it off for some of them and on for others, and it's kind of a pain. But
yeah,
I usually click it on and off a bunch of times in the battle, depending on the circumstance. Like if they're if I see that they're getting caught by stuff, I'll just run them away and turn it on. Like if somebody's chasing them with something slower that really shouldn't be caught by them, I'll just turn it on and then go micro somewhere else until I come back, and then I have time to deal with them.
Gotcha. So like most things in this game, there's no right answer. There's situations where it's the right answer.
I mean, yeah. I was going to say if you had like 200 APM or something, you could just leave it off all the time. But there's kind of a cap in this game to how fast you can input commands.
Yeah.
Seems like. Because if you click on stuff too fast, you get like double orders and stuff will forget their orders and whatnot. So even if you have like really good micro, it doesn't actually even matter that much.
Hank Cyrus in the chat saying you should have called your ROR Horse Masters the Blood Seekers or Blood Reavers.
No, fair enough.
And he also asked, back in Rome 1, you could press S while a skirmish cav is selected to turn on and off skirmish mode. I will check if that's true.
Yeah, I played a lot of Rome 1 back in the day, and there's commands for it. So there's hotkeys for that stuff.
What's the next best question to ask? What's your favorite faction to beat as Chaos? From Malverde.
Probably still the vampire counts, I think. Because I have a lot of bad memories of playing against vampire counts on ladder and Warhammer 1. Although it's still quite hard, but usually you can beat them on ladder with it. So. Probably them. Although it feels pretty good to beat like Wood Elves and other factions too. But I would say, yeah, probably vampire counts.
Yeah, Tank. I think it was Tank. If I'm misattributing that, someone will correct me. But I think Tank came out with that like Aspiring Champions, 6 Skirmish Cav, Air.
I believe that was Crabling.
I
don't know. They all share builds over there in VM, but I think it was Crabling.
Yeah, that's a pretty good build. I think I managed to beat it once as Chaos. I mean, as Vampire counts, but it was super, super close.
Okay. I mean, what was it? In the World Championship, they played it against Alfredino. Even Star played it against Alfredino, and actually, Alfredino won that game. So,
are Chaos a first pick?
For me, they can be. I would say it's kind of like anything else. They're probably one of the better factions, actually, in the game right now. Because they're kind of tricky because not a lot of people play them. So
yeah,
there's kind of a lot of mystery about them, so to speak. So if you don't know what you're doing against them, then it's pretty easy for somebody who's quite good with them to get an edge. But it really depends who you're against, I guess. If you're against if you're against like Falcon or something, you're kind of screwed anyway. But if you're against like a vampire count main or something like that, I'd probably save them for a counter pick. But yeah,
now
they can be pretty good for.
If you first pick them and you had 3 bans instead of 2, what 3 factions would you ban?
Right now, probably Dark Elves, even before vampire counts right now. Dark Elves are really good. And then probably Vampire Counts and Lizardmen, I think.
That surprises
Depending
me.
on.
I wasn't expecting Dark Elves or Lizardmen in this list. Can you talk a little bit about why they're so bad?
Dark Elves was pretty close before the latest patch, and with the new Soul Stealer, it's not going to be easy to play against a good Dark Elf player,
Hmm.
just because how many Soul Stealers Marathi's going to get on you and what kind of value they get.
And the Lizardmen?
Lizardmen, they got a lot of kite stuff. It's actually very good against chaos. Um, yeah, if you're playing against Holly Nolly or somebody like that, that would be a very tough matchup.
This isn't a Lizardmen video, but the DLC is still pretty new. Are Chameleon Stalkers good against Chaos?
They're good against hounds for sure. They're almost $700 though, so I would say no, because most of they're kind of like how would I say this? They're more or less sort of like the skink cohort with javelins, how they perform versus chaos
Oh,
in a lot of ways, and the javelins are a lot cheaper. So I think I would just save the money and get the javelins.
fair enough. Now, the opposite side of that question is what three factions are your favorite to pick Chaos into? Like, oh, they didn't ban Chaos. Sweet, this is a free win.
Um, I actually really like playing into Tomb Kings. I think it's always a fun matchup. Um, hmm, dwarves are pretty good too for chaos, and probably high elves, even though it's can be a little trickier because there's some pretty good high elf players out there.
Nah, they all suck, dude.
I mean, there's like Felk.
Nah, he's a chump. I beat him every day. I actually didn't know Falcon played High Elves. I thought he played Lizardmen and Bretonia mostly.
I think he played a lot of high elves. I think he showed his most played faction on Quick Battle and was Nagarath, I think,
Hmm.
back in the day. That was a while ago, but yeah, he's played plenty of high elves.
With the update for the Lizardmen and Beastmen, Deadly Bunny says that they've arguably gotten worse after the recent DLC, but both him and Butcherbird are asking, how'd you update your builds? More general than specific to deal with, the Gorgon, the Jabber Slythe, the new monsters the Lizardmen got. In those matchups, do you have something different, or are you mostly the same?
Versus the Beastmen. If they don't, I've been bringing Spawn and Shaggus because the idea was to trap the chariots on the Spawn and then kill them with the Shaggus where they can't get surrounded and beat in the back by the OP chariots.
Hmm.
But yeah, what I've been doing is adding Spawn, Shaggus, and Skirmish Cav because a lot of Beastmen have a hard time dealing with Marauder Horsemasters, I think. Because when I play Beastmen, they're very, very annoying. So if you can bring like a max load of Horsemasters, then deploy a little farther back, then a couple Spawn just to block, and then some heavy hitters to deal with the chariots. That's kind of what I've been doing for Beastmen.
Now, you
And I
said
think I've actually
Shaggoths. Do the regular Dragon Ogres perform okay, or just the Shaggoth?
um I've really had bad luck with regular Dragon Ogres getting tied up on Ungor Spears, really.
Uh,
So I don't know, because Ungor Spears would do well against Spawn and Dragon Ogres. So usually I've been doing the Spawn and Dragon Ogre pick more or less.
wow.
The Lizardmen, I haven't actually played much Lizardmen so far this patch. The chameleon skinks did get a nerf, but you don't actually need them. I played against Holly Nolly a while ago, and he used just the regular skink skirmishers versus me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. The Troglodon, the skink oracle,
Yeah.
that like 5 shots Sigvolt, and it does the
Man,
double shot. so it kills them very quickly, actually.
We heard from the first interview series with Bob Tresh that Skink Oracle might be a little strong at the moment.
Yeah, it is quite expensive, so if they fix its double shot, I don't know. It does have good spells too, so I'm not sure about that one because I've seen it lose a lot of times, but
Yeah, it is expensive. It's very expensive.
yeah, against Sigvald in particular, it's quite good. And kiting builds in general are good for lizardmen
Yeah, it's about
against chaos.
2,400 with his average kit. But
Yeah, something like that.
let's see. Well, you mentioned the Dwarven matchup a little bit ago. When I play Chaos, and I'm not an expert at all, I usually take double Hell Cannon and just blast all their infantry. But then gyrocopters could be a bit of a problem. You said that matchup was actually pretty good for Chaos. What do you do?
I usually just take a pile of Chaos Warriors Great Weapons and a bunch of Marauders and try to do like a general positioning surround. So while you're out of range of the foot missiles, you surround their whole formation with your formation and it claps in with everything at once.
Do you take the Fire Mage with Flamestorm, or are you not into that new kid technology?
I nowadays I've been running a lot of metal casters because of how OP Final Transmutation is now. So that's kind of what I do is just run Sartorial with Final Trans, and then while I'm collapsing in on them, I drop a big Final Trans on the middle of their formation, and usually does the job.
Do you take Metal Shifting? The
No.
lore passive?
No, not nowadays. If you can do it. When they nerf, they probably will nerf the AoE damage spells, and you can do it with like the first two spells in the lore. They're both pretty good, Plague of Rust and Searing Doom, and just keep casting those, and then you can take it. But otherwise,
Yeah, I imagine it's only good if you have a bunch of spammable spells and Final Trans. You
Yeah.
get 2 or 3 off in the whole game.
it's 10% more damage for. But I mean, it can work, especially versus dwarves. If you have like a lot of marauders and whatnot, you just pop a Plague of Rust here, and they do a lot more damage. And you can Plague of Rust the gyrocopters if you got horsemen under them or something like that. Or you can Plague of Rust their lord or whatnot if you got like an infantry surround. I mean, and Searing Doom actually does good damage on thunderers and missile units if you got a tight little dwarven box of them. And even if you can push them away, like drop a Searing Doom on them, and then they run away, but they have to stop shooting to run away. So
Yeah, that's only 6 wins of magic, so.
yeah, and then you get the passive buff too. So they can work pretty good.
From TN, we have, when do you take Aspiring Champions?
I take a few of them versus Vampire Coast for magic damage.
Into the Sirens?
Yeah, the Sirens and whatnot. They do quite well against Vampire Coast infantry. You can take them versus Skaven as well. They do well against most Skaven troops, and the Poison Wind, the Mortars and the Globadiers will both they both do like reduced effects, like the Mortis does less damage too. So it can
Yeah.
work in that.
Because they have such low models, is what you're referring to.
Yeah. Certain things like that, like Flock of Doom and whatnot, it's not very effective against Aspiring Champions. They actually are quite effective infantry if the enemy does not have armor piercing, but the enemy usually brings armor piercing versus Chaos.
And they do have Vanguard.
They have Vanguard. Actually, it's not the worst ability because you can just stick them in front of your troops.
It's so weird that they have Vanguard, though. Like, nothing about these trudging, fearsome, fully armored warriors with flaming sword am I like, oh yeah, Vanguard.
Yeah.
I'm not against it, I just don't know why.
Yeah, I don't really know what either.
The test on the stream right now is a little scuffed because Aranessa is attacking one of the Aspiring Champions in the back, but the one against the Sirens is doing quite well.
Okay. Yeah, they should beat the pants off Sirens. They have great stats. They just have low HP, so if you get any big monsters and stuff like Croxagors on top of them, they'll just tear them apart.
Yeah, 62 melee defense is no joke. That is actually... Wow, 62, that is really high for an infantry unit. I know they need it because their health is so low, but I just never
Yeah, they
realized...
get like about the HP of a Goblin Mage, so...
Yeah, it's only 2,800 max. Oof. But, yeah, good tech against Sirens, doing a lot of damage there. They're 100 gold less.
Yeah, they do pretty well, and they have good morale, and they boost morale, so... I like them there.
They boost morale? They have Encourage?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I mean, that was kind of their whole shtick back in the day when they released them, because Chaos was... Like, Chosen back in the day had like 75 morale, like the same morale Chaos Warriors had. And they would just get routed. They had a really, really bad matchup against Vampire Counts in particular.
Wow,
So
I did not know these guys
with
had...
Encourage and magic damage to help Chaos against the Vampire Counts back in the day. It helped a little bit, but not really. But
That's honestly super cool. I love that this unit has Encourage. Alright. What are the most niche units for Chaos? We kind of asked this earlier with the best and worst, but this one is more specifically... It was from Not Human Boy, by the way. It's like, what unit is really good if in the right situation, otherwise total shit?
Probably Aspiring Champions would be one of them.
I suspected as much, as maybe why I put that question there.
Yeah. Forsaken... Forsaken are pretty good. They're quite fast. They're heavily armored. They do a lot of shock damage. But they're kind of squishy against a bunch of things. So yeah, I would probably say Aspiring Champions. Because most of the other things are more clearly good or bad and not situational as much.
Yeah. Alright, we're down to 7 questions left. Butcherbird asked, why don't greenskins ban Chaos?
Because it's a fine matchup for them. They're probably still favored versus Chaos.
Even with the Loons nerf?
Yeah. The Black Orcs are good. They got Stone Trolls. They got all sorts of good stuff. They got Poison Archers. They got Armor-Reducing Archers. They got Wah. They got Wurzag. They got... they can snipe your Manticores with... what's that? Vindictive Gaze.
Even after the nerf, that still works?
Oh, I haven't tested it lately, but I'd imagine it still works okay.
Yeah.
They still got Savage Orc Biggins and whatnot, so... Greenskins are pretty much still better than Chaos at most stuff.
What's the worst faction to be kited by from Malverde? I'm going to answer for you. It's Wood Elves. Now, why is it Wood Elves?
Well, actually, Dark Elves and Lizardmen are up there, too.
Nope,
Wood
you're wrong.
Elves.
It's Wood Elves. Why is it Wood Elves? Alright, I'm kidding. You give your real answer.
I've actually have a way better win rate versus Wood Elves being kited by them than Dark Elves and Lizardmen. But Wood Elves are pretty nasty. They can like do an all cav stuff with the Sisters. The Sisters have enough magic damage or enough missile damage to kill Sarthoriel from full health with just their missile attacks. So they can snipe Sarthoriel, and then they could just shoot you with the missile cav while they're doing it and try to poke you. And they got the what are they called? The Ethereal Knights, the Lost Sylvan Knights. If you have like a regrowth or something like that, they're a real pain to deal with. So they definitely can be a pain. The Wood Elves are a pain, but usually you can outlast them if you don't make any big mistakes, which can be difficult. But
if you play perfectly, you might.
Yeah, you should win if you play Chaos perfectly.
Okay, all right, that's a ringing endorsement. Just play perfectly.
I mean, the
kids.
Wood Elf player also has to play perfectly to win, because if he charges a skirmish cav or gets caught or something, then
Nah. Just put all your units on skirmish. Go make yourself a sandwich. Come back, and you've already won the game. I am not a fan of Wood Elves. If anybody's not picking up on that.
No, they're quite strong, and you don't even have to kite as Wood Elves. you can bring like sort of box builds depending on what the chaos player brings.
Yeah. From Sedain and Biblington, what matchups do you use the generic lords?
Generic lords,
Like the sorcerer lords.
yeah, the melee one is just trash, so you pretty much never use him. He doesn't really do anything good. He has like personal melee buffs, but he's really not even that good at melee. So don't know what you're supposed to use him for. The sorcerer lord isn't bad. He has arcane conduit. He has good armor. You can use him on a horse in a few matchups. He's kind of easy to snipe, I guess, so that's kind of a problem. I used to bring him on a Manticore versus Beastman a lot. I suppose you probably could with a Firecaster on a Manticore. Just run around and nuke the caster. He pairs well with like six skirmish cav, so you could just run around with skirmish cav while you're fireballing the Beastman caster. I'm not sure how that works anymore, but used to work pretty good.
I tried to show how well the Sister's missile damage works against Sartorial despite his 50% missile resist and 25% magic resist, but the AI just charged me with them, so that's not going ideally.
They don't think much about Sartorial's melee capability.
No.
He actually loses to a horse noble, Sartorial does.
Yeah.
He's not that good on that front, but he can do surprisingly well against a forest dragon. He can like almost beat a forest dragon in melee because he has magic resist and magic attacks, and they have magic attacks and physical resist.
Well, he's kicking the Sister's ass right now. Get it, Sartorial. Oh god, they're gonna lose. Maybe you should have kited.
Yeah. Yeah, Unbreakable really does pay off. I once won a game where the balance bar was completely in the red for me, and Sartorial just killed the Skaven Lord, and everything else terror routed from him, and he had like 80 health remaining.
Oh, now that they're damaged, all of a sudden they're gonna kite me. All right, you cowards.
That's good tactics.
The Sisters
Damage him and then kite.
Now, something you didn't mention, but is true here, is Sartorial's had 0 armor this whole time because the Sisters have armor sundering attacks, so that's pretty brutal. If you pair them with like basic Glade Guard, or the basic Wood Elf archers, if he has 0 armor, they'll do some good damage to him.
Yeah, he actually has quite a big hitbox too. Not quite as big as like a Dread Saurian or anything, but like his wings will hit missiles, and he doesn't have the. He used to have 70% missile resist in Warhammer 1.
That seems a little bit much.
I think he has 50 or 60 now.
It's 50 now. 70 is a lot.
70 is a lot. So you'd bring him every time versus the Wood Elves in Warhammer 1. And he was good, but he's still good. He got 50%, but still, that's less than a Mammoth health, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If you factor in the Mammoth, and you'd still shoot a Mammoth.
Yeah, but Mammoths are like super squishy too. Archer fire.
He's actually the point was he really isn't that hard to kill with missiles, so you still have to be a little careful with him.
Yeah. We have some game 3 kind of questions, so we'll do the last one for game 2 here, and then wrap up with some game 3 stuff. How do I have to read this whole question because I just copy pasted and it's not written in a question format. So I'm not asking you to go through every single matchup and discuss why, I picked this Lord for Lizardman. I picked this Lord for this and this. It's just in general, when you're going into a matchup, how do you know what Lord to pick? Like, how does it affect your game plan? Those kind of things. Like, why, we started off with why not Sigvald every time, and you said because he's a little overrated. It's like, what situations make you take Kolek, or what situations make you take Sartorial over a generic Sorcerer Lord caster, that kind of thing. So, like, did that make any sense?
Yeah.
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think right now. It really depends on your playstyle and if you want to like mix it up a bit. Like if you're in a best of three, or if somebody knows you have some armies, so you pick another army.
Hmm.
Generally, if you're trying to tank it out and you don't want something sniped, like Sigvald's pretty good at not getting sniped. Archaon is a good balance. He has fire damage versus like the undead. Um, Kolek is a beat stick that runs pretty fast, so if you have a mobile army or something that strikes fast, or if you want some support for your horse masters, because you can use Kolek to support your horse masters away from your army. So you can do that versus like Beastmen or Faction if you want to really win the mobility game. And then Sarthorial is quite good now for the final transmutation. He's also good against dwarves for hopping around, but he's a bit weak to getting sniped by big monsters and stuff with nets and stuff that can lock him down. So it mostly depends if you want, if you're worried about getting sniped, if you are like heavily invested in the mobility game or more in the tanky game, then you go for Sigvald. With the mobility game, you go for Kolek. If you
So it's more what you want to do with the game rather than who you're facing.
yeah. Yeah, more or less. You can usually use most of the four legendary lords. You can usually use two or three of them in each matchup. Exceptions would probably be like Coast or something, where you'd probably run Sigvald every time.
Yeah, just
Just
for the
because
low
you're worried
profile.
about getting sniped and stuff like that.
So the last two questions are all kind of game three oriented, to wind down the interview here with a little less serious and a little more wistful atmosphere. Which chaos god holds your allegiance most? And that is from Hank Cyrus.
Probably Zinch. I like Zinch. I'd probably rate him Zinch, Korn, Nurgle, Slaanesh. Four gods. I like Uninvited too. The color scheme, the jet black and the gold and whatnot. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I would say Zinch.
Zinch does seem very popular among the Chaos lads, from what I've heard. It's Nurgle and Zinch that I keep hearing. Not a lot of Korn and Slaanesh fans out there.
I'm sure they'll come later.
Oh yeah, I mean there's some, but I'm just saying if there was a grouping of them, I think the Nurgle and Zinch camps would be quite larger.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
In game three, I'm going to just combine these last two questions because they're very, very similar. So for me and Sedaine, what do you want Chaos to be in game three? Like the Warriors of Chaos, not the four factions. What do you want them to be? How do you think they'll change? And what do you want added to the roster?
What I want added to like the demon rosters, or I'm a little confused by that one. Do you want me to? With
We're talking about the Warriors of Chaos with all the
faction we have
demons.
now.
Yeah, with all the demons coming in, how are the Warriors of Chaos going to stay unique?
I would like the four demon factions to be. Well, I think there's going to be four like god specific factions. So the factions will have mortal followers and demons, and then there'll probably be one faction with demons undivided, and this one will be chaos undivided. So it should. I would like the four like god specific factions to be like very different from each other, and that will kind of separate themselves from, I think, Chaos Undivided as well. And there's still a few monsters they'll probably add to the Chaos Undivided roster, like the Mutalisk Vortex Beast and stuff like that.
What the heck is a Mutalisk Vortex Beast?
Um, kind of like a. No, I wouldn't. I was gonna say like a Jabberslythe, but it has like a tentacle head or something like that. Um, yeah, it's a four-legged large beastie with lots of tentacles coming from its face, and it has like an AoE drain like the Jabberslythe does, I think.
Huh. I have looked it up on Google Images. It is now on the stream. That's something.
Yeah, yeah.
That is something.
Definitely is something.
That would be really hard to paint on tabletop.
Probably.
Holy crap.
But yeah, as long as the races are distinct from each other, like the demon races, most of them aren't, with the exception of probably Nurgle. Nurgle's quite tanky. Undivided is quite tanky, so it'd probably be kind of like Nurgle that way. Khorne is actually looking like more of a glass cannon faction, and Zinch is going to have like Globadier, Warp Fire Thrower type units in it, so that should be interesting.
They're stealing my shtick.
Yeah, I can see them being like either really good or really bad. I'm not quite sure right now,
Yeah.
so I'll have to see. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. So should be good.
So we mentioned what you wanted added. It would be those last couple monsters. And then in game 3, you mentioned how you wanted them to be different. So I think we covered that question pretty well. Hopefully, Sedaine will be pleased with that answer. Are you going to stay Warriors of Chaos main, or are you going to branch out into the demons when they come out?
Um, I don't know. We'll have to see. I pretty much like the Warrior Chaos Undivided roster, but I'll definitely play the God and see what they got going on. Zinch does sound really neat though, so it's probably gonna be my shtick is probably either Undivided or Zinch.
Oh, actually, that is a good question I just thought of. And me saying I have a good question is a little self-congratulatory. So, whoops. Do you think do you think they should, and do you think they will take people like Sigvald or Sartorial and give them back to their original factions of Tzeentch or Slaanesh? Or do you think they'll stay on the Undivided? Or do you think they should?
I would actually like to see him on both, but that would kind of like ruin some of the like the specialness of them. But I really don't like the idea of them stripping them out. So.
That's true, but I also have a hard time seeing like Warriors of Chaos Undivided taking Sigvald versus the Demons of Slaanesh, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, maybe it would be a good idea because
It would look weird. And on the
yeah,
campaign map,
I
it would
really
kill 'em.
wish. Yeah, I really wish that like the generic lords were better, and you wouldn't
Yeah,
see the legendary lords like all the time. But
that's
yeah,
true. Is
I don't know.
Kolek
Either
is
way, though, I'm not really that picky on it. So
true. Lore wise, I actually don't know. Is Kolek undivided, or does he have someone he gives more of
I
a
think
shit about?
lore-wise, he stays in a cave for 1,000 years until there's a huge lightning storm. And they throw a whole pile of slaves into the caves to wake him up.
Huh.
He comes out and roams around for a while and smashes things up, then goes back to sleep.
Just sounds like
Yeah.
just sounds like he's a little cranky. That's
Kind of
his,
like
his
just a big beast. The Norskins kind of wake up every now and then.
classic Narska. I hope we get that two-headed dragon that Archaon
Gorwatch?
fights. Yeah, no, it's
Oh
Sigvald
wait,
fights it. Sigvald fights it.
Sigval. Well,
Gorach
most
is
of the Chaos Dragons do have two heads. Most of them, I think.
yeah,
The
but the
original one was actually a lord, I believe, on the tabletop,
yeah.
Golroch or something like that.
And I think
And
yeah, I think it was Jay talking to me about it, but it sounds like it was a pretty sick character.
yeah, he was a lord on the tabletop. I guess you could take him as a lord, and he's just a dragon has like a demon inside of him. I think he was originally a star dragon, and he fought a demon, and he ate it. He ate the demon, and it split its head in half. And he controls half, and the demon controls the other half. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the shtick in the lore.
And Sigvald kills them both.
I don't think he kills Golrosh, but he kills another dragon.
Oh,
All the heroes kill a dragon at some point. It's
dragons are kind of
part of
built
the
up
art.
to be this big, awesome thing, but they die so frequently.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, I have kept you for an hour, sir, and we've gotten through all the
I
questions we had. Any parting words?
no, I think I'm good.
All right. You take care, and thank you very much for doing this interview. It was very kind
All
of
right.
you.
Yep, no problem. We'll catch you later. Thank you.
Boy. And for everyone else on the stream, for another interview like this, I will put up a poll in the Discord with all the factions that haven't been done yet, and you can go there and vote. Vote for as many as you want in there. First one to get to 10 votes, or just the highest when the poll ends. We'll do that. I'll open a Discord channel for questions for that faction, and I'll go find a pro to interview. Aside from that, there's a tournament later tonight, Tournament of the 13. Tune in for that. Should be a lot of fun. That's about it. Y'all have a good day.